This is our first Thanksgiving psalm, Psalm 28, a psalm of David. We kind of did a flyby yesterday of the entire psalm, and something very poignant and powerful. If you missed yesterday, and you know in your life, if you've experienced any injustice whatsoever, any past abuse or mistreatment from others, yesterday's devotion, I think, is pretty significant and important for you to listen to or pass along to someone that you love. But in terms of our verse by verse, let me break this down. We're going to pick it up today in verse 6. Verses 1 and 2, David says, God, I'm crying to you. You're my rock. I'm running to you. And we're going to set this up this way today, that when you run to God, and that needs to become a habit in your life, it just needs to become your go-to reflexive response, instinctive urge when you are overcome with fear or doubt or concern or dismay or hurt or just discouragement. You run to him. You cry out to him. And we are broken, doubtful, struggling, weak people. I spoke to someone last week and he said, but I feel like that's just wrong to be that weak. Well, it's just reality. We are that weak. And the gospel is not about you getting strong for God. The gospel is about you continually realizing you're weak and you need him. And so learning to cry out to him and learning to run to him is such an important thing. So David then proceeds to say in verses 3 through 5, God, I'm turning my enemies over to your care. I can't figure out how to bring justice and reckoning. I'm not going to be caught up in it. I don't want to be drawn away with an equal opposite kind of wickedness. I'm not going to take the reins of this set of circumstances. I'm just putting it in your hands. I'm putting my enemies in your hands. I'm putting the situation in your hands. And I'm going to follow you. Now, friend, that seems like you're doing nothing. When you just say, Lord, I'm following you into this situation. Instruct me, teach me, show me. It feels passive, but it is not. There are so many times in my life that I've said, Lord, this is the problem. It's your problem. I'm yours. My family is yours. My church is yours. Our school is yours. This ministry is yours. Everything in my life is yours. And so you've done a good job with all of it. And thank you. And so now we're dealing with this problem, and this is your problem. So let us know how you're going to solve it. Let us know how you're going to fix it. And he does remarkable and wonderful and amazing things. I've got some problems right now I'm putting in his hands. So as you develop this instinctive, reflexive thing that says, God, I'm putting this problem, I'm putting these people, I'm putting this complicated situation into your hands, you are not taking inaction, you're taking the most important action. Then you're going to take intentional, strategic actions as he directs you, as he points you in the right direction. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths. And so it becomes a step-by-step process where you're following God. You're not sure where it's all leading, but you're following God. And when you're done, when you get there, wherever he was leading you, and you look back, it all looks like it was planned. And everybody thinks you planned it that way from the get-go. In reality, you know you didn't. God just ordered the steps. And in retrospect, following God looks like a brilliant plan, okay? But from the front, looking forward, it just looks like a big ocean of question marks. So it's pretty ironic how it works that way. So David puts his enemies in God's hands. And then he picks it up in verse 6. And he says, blessed be the Lord. Now, I want you to catch this. Verse 1, he's crying. He's running to God. He's begging him not to be silent. He's afraid of dying in silence with God. Verse 2, he's begging God to hear his voice. He's supplicating to God. He's crying to God. Verse 6, he's celebrating. Blessed be the Lord. That word blessed is a powerful word. In the Hebrew, it's barak, okay? It is to kneel down or to make kneel. It is to be the recipient it's to be the humble recipient of gracious favor and power and blessing flowing from the hand of God. So it's a huge concept, okay? For me to be the recipient of God's blessing, and then for me to bless him back, to praise him, to thank him, to worship him. Blessed be the Lord, Why? Because he hath heard the voice of my supplications. There's one thing you can be guaranteed. God is always going to listen to your prayer. He's always going to hear and respond. There's never a prayer that you've prayed that hasn't received an answer. It may not have been the answer you expected or wanted, but it was the answer that God ordained. And so therefore, prayer is not about getting your way. It's about getting God's way. And it's about aligning your heart in submission to God's way. That's what prayer is all about. And so you can reckon this. Even though God may seem or feel silent to you, he is hearing you. And one day you'll be celebrating with vivid imagery and understanding that he did hear you, okay? But what David is celebrating here is not only that God heard him, he's celebrating that God is his strength and shield. Now, I don't know if this is a faith declaration or if it's born out of experience. We don't know that. We don't know if there was this moment of spiritual, emotional, psychological, internal reassurance from God based on his psalm, this prayer. If David had a surge of assurance that, no, God's hearing me, blessed be God, he will give me and is giving me right now strength, and he will be my shield. Or if this is after David has experienced a season of silence, but then God's response. Either way, we know this. When you get in the habit of throwing yourself into God's hands as your rock and crying to him, it won't be long before you're celebrating, blessed be God. He's heard me, and he is my strength, and he is my shield. My heart trusted in him, and I am helped. They go together. You trust him, help is on the way. You trust him, help is going to walk with you through what you're going through. Help is going to eventually release you from what you're experiencing. Therefore, my heart greatly rejoiceth. I just want you to see the contrast of David's emotions. In one minute, he's crying. In the next, he's greatly rejoicing. Explosive praise, strength, overwhelming joy, and he's singing. And with my song will I praise him. So we're going to park it here, verses 6 and 7. And my friend, whatever you're dealing with, hey, this is Thanksgiving month. In a week, we will be celebrating Thanksgiving. Why don't you celebrate it right now? Why don't you, by faith, thank God for being your strength and your shield? Why don't you thank him for the help that is on its way and that you are presently experiencing, even right now as we study the psalm? Why don't you declare again out loud and preach it to yourself in your own heart? I'm trusting in him, and choose. My heart will greatly rejoice. And sing. And have a great Tuesday. We'll see you tomorrow.